All right, so I want to dive into Joe Rogan's Spotify podcast deal. $100 million, which is obviously absurd.
Ton of money.
A ton of money for creators listening to this. And I want to base it around creators. I know everybody knows about Joe Rogan's deal.
All the numbers and whatnot.
The numbers, yeah. Shout out to Valuetainment for the numbers. But I want to get into why it's important to make content and why it makes sense to Spotify for paying him $100 million.
Yeah.
The number one thing I think for people that are trying to make videos and trying to make podcasts, especially in 2020 and beyond, is longevity and consistency.
Yeah.
And both of us have been in the realm of making videos on a daily and a weekly basis. And we've been in the game for many years.
A few years now, yeah.
A few years. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about longevity. Let's talk about why that's important.
Longevity, I think, is probably one of the biggest keys because it's so easy to get discouraged so early on and just not see the end of the road almost. I've always found, like, especially when I was doing all my content, there's so many different times where I was thinking, man, like, this has to be it. This is going to be the thing that's going to put me over the top. And I'd always be waiting for that moment, and I'm still waiting for that moment. And guess what? It hasn't been here. So the moment I kind of flipped out of that mindset of having something that just pops, it really forced me personally, and I'm sure everyone else, like Russ talks about it, is he thought his stuff was the top of the line all the time. And because he had that thought and it didn't work, it forced him to get another level up. And I think that, alongside with longevity and not giving up, is truly the key to really have that type of success.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget that Joe Rogan's been doing this for over a decade.
Yeah.
Like, he's at podcast number he's almost at 1,500 interview podcasts, which is insane. Nice. If you think about it, and I did the numbers, that's almost 150 podcasts per year.
That's crazy.
150.
Yeah.
That's shooting, that's coming up with the script, or that's bringing someone on, that's recording. And me and you know this. So we both have podcasts, we both have content that we're dropping. We know how long it takes.
Yeah.
But for us, because we love it, number one, but we also understand that each video that we drop is just getting us closer and closer to the targets and the goals we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And it's not about the next video that's going to be the viral hit. Yes, of course, we're going to try to strive for making content that's valuable, that people will actually enjoy and that people will actually care about, and hit that subscribe button. But we know that it's not going to happen overnight tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think there's been plenty of cases now, like earlier on, maybe, sure, you'll get the odd person that just gets the viral views and then somehow blows up. But one of the biggest things that I've learned is if you can't repeat it, it's not really success, it's luck. And that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away from a few of the books that I've read is if it's not repeatable, you're just kind of wishing for it to happen versus actually creating a structured outline and really attacking that full force versus just hoping.
Yeah, like we were watching that one video from Patrick Bet-David, and he says, well, you're not going to be LeBron James. If you're not LeBron James, 260 pounds, can jump 45 inches, you're probably not going to be LeBron James. Yeah. But a guy like Steph Curry, 6'2", can shoot out the gym. That's more of almost like a repeatable, like you can hone your skills and you can hone your talent. And that's something, that you need to learn how to emulate. Is exactly what you said. Something that's repeatable, something that you can write a blueprint of and attack.
Really reverse engineer.
Yeah. We always talk about that all the time. And I've been doing this podcast stuff for almost 2 years now.
You've been killing it for 2 years now.
Thank you, bro.
I love the progress.
Thank you, bro. And yeah, we see the progress. We see the growth. I guess the second point I want to bring across is the reasons for content. How using a platform like YouTube, using a platform like your podcast is not essentially going to give you an ROI or return on investment right away. Yeah. But it's going to be a tool that you can use that's in your pocket that is going to open up opportunities, A, down the road, and B, for even just branding purposes.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's been there's going to be plenty of people that don't really see an ROI on it, like you talked about. But even personally, I haven't had any money that I've really made from this. And like a lot of times people are like, oh, like, why are you doing this for so long? What is it that you get out of it? A lot of it is that I have that faith that something will come out of it if I provide enough value. And luckily I was able to provide enough value that someone of such a high standard like Michael Lancaster was able to fly me down, or people from different cities are now looking to fly me down, even though that I haven't had that money and income and ROI on my stuff. I'm still able to get something out of it. And that actually propels me to grow further and help me understand how to get closer to those dreams that I have planned for myself.
And a lot of people say like, oh, Joe Rogan, he's already famous and as being a UFC commentator and stuff. But if you think about it, the podcast was, again, it was very secondary. It was something that he was dropping since almost YouTube started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and now the ROI is paid off a decade later.
Yeah.
And it wasn't it's not like he was waiting on that.
Yeah.
He wasn't waiting on a big check from a big company. But what it shows is that if you really believe in what you're doing and what you're showcasing, and if you actually are bringing value, like his podcast, shout out to Joe Rogan if he's watching this.
Yeah.
But his stuff I watch all the time, and he brings on guys like Kevin Hart, and he brings on guys that are big A-list celebrities and people, and he picks their brain, and he's actually genuinely curious about who they are and what they do and how they do certain things. And I think that's why his podcast, he doesn't have a fancy introduction or very formalities or this and that. His podcast is chill. It's super chill. But I think the reason people mess with it so much is because he's just super authentic. He's actually genuinely wanting to understand concepts and people.
That's the best part about it too, is like there's been so many times that you'll actually see his stuff and he doesn't actually agree with the person across the table. But that doesn't mean that he won't have that person on, because he's trying to gain more perspective out of things. And that's the part that I like about his podcast the most, is that he's not very one-sided on things, and he's not trying to portray his audience to understand only one side of it. He's open to it all, and the audience really gets to decide what they want out of that.
Totally, bro. Totally. And I think one thing that people can take away is just that if you actually genuinely believe in what you're producing, I think down the road it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
A lot of companies and people start podcasts for the sake of riding that trend.
Yeah.
We started a podcast because we actually genuinely were curious about people in the city.
Yeah.
Want to learn about their stories, bring people on, and actually provide that value. And I think the third, the last tip point that I want to bring out is don't half-ass your content.
Yeah.
If you're going to produce, invest in it.
Yeah.
Actually invest. If you're going to invest your time, then why would you, I see a lot of podcasts, and I don't want to bring anybody down, because I know a lot of people have certain scenarios and situations, and, you have to start somewhere. And like we did, we started somewhere. But I think the goal is to always get to the highest point where you can make high quality, because you won't be able to compete in this game. You won't be able to compete in a game like YouTube and the online world.
Especially like almost all cell phones now are recording 4K. So there's almost a minimum, and it's getting easier and easier to maintain a certain level of quality, that it makes it harder to kind of stand out too at the same time. But I also think that with that, it shouldn't discourage people to get started at the same time, is because everyone has to start somewhere. So whether it is an iPhone, for example, you have to figure out how can you maximize that iPhone's potential, and how can you continue to improve your videos, even if it is from an iPhone. For example, there's a lot of times where I even have, like, we have cameras that are worth like $5,000, but we're still sometimes shooting on the go with an iPhone. And to be able to use your tools that you do have and maximize those tools are almost just as crucial as having the tools. So quality, I think, and you understand this more than anyone, is it doesn't only come from having the right camera, but knowing how to actually use the right camera, and then investing your time not only in the equipment, but also investing your time in learning how to use that equipment.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's very easy to just skip the learning process.
Yeah.
And you can't. With this video stuff, with YouTube, We've spent how many countless hours. We're sitting and doing courses. We're learning, and this is not, again, it's all on how you want to again build your brand and build who you are. And again, when Joe Rogan started, it was with a webcam and his homie.
Yeah.
And they were like, test, is this on?
Yeah.
They were messing around, but they were recording. And a decade later, he's bringing on guys like Elon Musk, and things are rolling. But I think if you have those three things, and kind of wrapping this up, longevity, understanding that this game is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Consistency, dropping every single week, and you have to.
Mm-hmm.
You have to on YouTube. You have to drop if you really want to build and grow. And then secondly, reasons for content. Using your podcast, your platform, your following as a tool, and not looking at it as tomorrow you're going to get an ROI. Tomorrow you're not, Spotify ain't going to knock on your door and ask you to exclusively drop your content on their platform. It's going to take a decade.
Yeah.
It really is. And thirdly is dropping high quality content. Everyone has an iPhone. Everyone's willing to invest $1,000 into an iPhone. If you were willing to invest $1,000 into a camera and learn how to use the basics of a DSLR, you can compete. You know what I mean? And again, you don't need that, and you can start with something lower.
Yeah.
But if you're serious, if whoever's listening to this, if you're serious, building your brand, building your individual brand, you have to know that it's gonna take at least a couple $1,000 to get your feet wet and started.